Hi, inside this video I'd like to talk about preparing properly for creating your own sales video for your product or service that you want to sell online. Now, this is absolutely critical information to help you increase the chances of selling as many as possible products. So inside this video I'm going to talk about a few tips that will definitely help you do that. The first thing you need to think about is becoming very clear on the specific problem that your product or service is solving. So hopefully by now, if you've already created your product or service, you know what that is. But if you haven't clearly defined that, this is the time to become very clear, in fact, crystal clear on what the exact problem is that you're solving with your product or service. Even if your product or service solves a number of different problems, you need to think about just one main thing that your product or service is selling. The reason for this is because when you create the content for your sales video, the clearer you can be on this exact this thing, the better it is, and probably the more products you'll end up selling as well. So that's the first thing. Become very clear on the specific problem that your product or service is solving. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing you need to think about is who you're actually talking to when you're creating your sales video. So in other words, who are you solving this problem for? This is just as important as the first point, you know, what your product is exactly solving. And so therefore you need to think about very clearly who exactly you're talking to. Eben Pagan talks about creating an avatar. It's like a profile of a typical person that is in your target market, and then when you create your sales video or your sales content, you talk to that specific person. So it's like you're talking to one person. So it's almost like me talking to you right now. I'm talking to just one person at a time. And in the same way, you need to become very clear at who is that person that you're talking to. Who is that exact person? Who is that avatar? What is that profile of that person? How old are they? What kind of programs do they watch? What sort of money do they make? Are they male or female? These are all the sort of things you need to think about when you create your sales video. Now, the next thing, once you have those first two things out of the way, is to think about the structure of your sales video. This is just as important because with a specific structure like this, you lead people along a certain path to, at the end, get them to take a certain action, like buying your product, for example. So I'm going to explain one of many different structures to you that you can use. It's a very simple and easy structure that you can use, and that will definitely get you some results, and pretty good results at that as well. So the structure that I'm talking about is based on a formula that I've developed, and the formula is SSBGA. The letters SSBGA. Each of these letters stands for something to remind you of the structure for your sales video. Now the first S is for story. So the first part of your video can be a story, introducing your video with a story. Now what's good about this story is that people love drama. So the more drama you can have in the story, and the more that you can identify your story with the problem that people are having, the better. So think about how you can create a story as the beginning of your video. People love stories and they love listening to stories. The second S stands for solution. Now, once you've told your story and you've developed the problem, you introduce the solution, which is your product. So you don't have to be very long-winded here. You can simply introduce your product and or service and talk about how it actually solves the problem that you identified in your story before. So very, very simple, very straightforward. Now, the next thing is to talk about the benefits. This is B for benefits. The benefits that your product or service provides to your audience. Very, very straightforward, but very, very important. So what I recommend you do here is to think about 3 really key benefits that your product or service provides, and then really elaborate on those benefits. And the more emotional you can make these benefits, make them emotional benefits to your audience, the better. Now, let's look at an example. For example, the voice recorder that I'm using for this particular recording, it has a little button, a menu button on here. Now, that's a feature. So someone could list that as, it has a really cool looking menu button. Now, I can ask the question, so what? With any feature, you can ask the question, so what? What does it mean? What is the benefit? And so it's not a benefit when it's just a feature like that. So the way to turn it into a benefit is to think about, what does this feature do for the person who uses it? So in this case, the menu button helps me easily access the menu inside and the files and folders inside this device, so that it saves me time and reduces frustration. So those are the benefits. So when you think about the benefits for your product or service, can you ask the question, so what? And if you can, you need to work a little bit harder to turn that into an emotional benefit. Very, very important. So that's the next thing. Talk about the benefits of your product or service to your audience. The next letter is G for guarantee, and I use this to mean a number of different things. The first and obvious one is to always provide a guarantee or a money-back guarantee for your product. Now, if you're using a service like ClickBank, for example, they have a generous 60-day money-back guarantee, which is really, really good. And what's important is to actually mention that in your video. You know, if you really believe in your product and that it does what it says, you need to have a money-back guarantee like this. And it just convinces people that you're really serious about your product and that you really believe in the quality of your product and that it actually does what you say it does. The other thing to add here is testimonials from people who've actually used your product. And once again, it's just proof that your product does what you say that it does. Something else you can also do here is to provide case studies or even endorsements from other famous people inside your niche. So that's G for guarantee. The final letter is A for action. And this is where you call people to action. This is where you actually ask them to do something. And in this case, if it's a sales video, it's important to ask people to click on the Buy Now button. That's normally what happens in sales videos. You get people to click on a button. Now, it's really straightforward. All you got to do here is to actually just ask people to do it. You just ask them to click on the button. The other thing that you can do to help increase the number of people clicking on it, believe me, is to just point towards the button. So if the button is below the video, point below the video, and you know, see how I'm pointing sort of over the edge? It's just a simple little trick to make it look more real. So if the button is below the video, point below it. If it's to the left or the right in your case, look to the left or right and point towards it as well. Click on the button, and same on the other side. You know, sort of act like you're looking at the button, and that just helps people direct their eyes to the button, actually go ahead and click on it. So if you did a good job with your story and with providing the solution and the benefits and your guarantee, then getting towards the end stage where you ask people to take action should be pretty straightforward. So that's the formula. SSBGA, tell a story, provide a solution, talk about the benefits of your product or service, provide a guarantee, and then call people to action. It's really as simple as that. If you apply that simple formula, you'll be able to get people to go along in a certain path and at the end take action to buy your product or service. That's it from me inside this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to find out how I make a six-figure income from online video, you're welcome to go to my website at rapidvideoblogging.com, and on there you'll find a free report. It's about 80 pages long that explains in quite a lot of detail what I actually do to help me make a six-figure income. I talk about things like how to use online video to get a lot of traffic to your site, and to use that to build your email list, and then eventually to use that to monetize your online videos. Some very, very cool stuff there. So if you want a copy of that report, it's free. Just go to rapidvideoblogging.com. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you inside the next video.